Good afternoon. I'm thrilled to be here. My name is Jenny Lippmann. I am, first and foremost, the mother of two young, amazing children who have taught me what humility is more than I ever would have expected, have taught me to love harder than I ever expected, and have also shown me stress like I've never expected. In fact, on my way here today, I left two screaming children and just ran away. Also, my day job, I'm a full-time professional civil engineer working as a senior project manager at MJ Engineering, which is a multidiscipline civil engineering firm in Clifton Park located about 20 minutes north of here. There, I've had the pleasure of leading architectural and engineering design teams on several high-profile, governor-initiated, high-paced projects, which has been really rewarding, as well as many community-based projects throughout New York State. I find my job very fulfilling, and I'm very lucky to say that I love my job and I like going to work every day, and for that I do feel that I'm lucky. And I've also now have considered myself to have been successful in my career thus far. I'm not that old, at least I like to tell myself that. But also, in addition to being a mother and being a full-time engineer, I have had the pleasure of operating the Union College EDGE program for over 10 years. I first became involved with EDGE in its first year in 2002 when I was actually a senior here at Union, like many of you, here on campus, and I took a job as a student counselor for the summer just to make a little extra money. At that time, I thought EDGE was amazing. It was so much fun to work with high school girls and show them what Union had to offer in terms of an education, but also an engineering degree. But I never realized how much of an impact it would actually have on my own career at that moment in time. A little bit about myself. I am a girl from a small town outside of Syracuse of about 2,000 people. I was raised by amazing parents who are hardworking, dedicated, made me work really hard, and challenged me, which I'm very thankful for, and didn't give things to me easily. My sister and I were raised by my mother primarily, but I do have, wonderful father figures in my life as well who taught me the value of hard work. But watching my mother grow up as a young single mother, my parents were divorced when I was 4. She was finishing her master's degree, raising 2 bratty kids, which now I better understand, and really just trying to put a roof over our head and give us a quality of life. But we didn't really have any frills. We, didn't have name brand clothes. We didn't have fancy cars. I was always embarrassed by that. So she really, watching her motivation and working her drive, or watching her, drive to be successful, really motivated me in my life. As a kid in a small town, and again, the town I grew up in was really home to a lot of people that would be classified as low to moderate income, so there wasn't a lot of wealth in our town. But I could see it from a distance, and I was like, I want that. Like, I want that fancy house and that fancy car. And, back then, my dream car was actually a black Saab convertible. It was something that I just thought I had to have, and I would have it one day. So, in order to get that, I thought to myself, well, I have to be successful. Like, I have to have that life. So that's kind of what brought me into high school, and I start thinking about career path and how do you get to find success. So in high school, I was very good at math. I loved math and science. I loved architecture. And when you're trying to put those pieces together and decide, well, what am I going to put on my college applications for a major, people that I talked to in career fairs, I settled on engineering because I thought, well, I'm good at math, I'm good at science, I like solving problems, and according to the career fairs, engineers made a pretty good amount of money, so I should be successful. I should be able to get that Saab convertible one day and have that fancy house. So I settled on engineering, which led me to Union, which I loved. I was able to have 2 majors here at Union, civil engineering and Japanese, actually, which is a whole nother story in itself. But I had a great opportunity here. I loved it. But when I got to campus, I realized that I had never seen such wealth before. In my little town, I didn't know what Gucci was. I thought Gucci was just for celebrities. But in my first few days, I was playing field hockey here, and half the team wore Gucci shoes, and I'm like, who wears Gucci shoes? That wasn't even in my vocabulary at the time. And so what I saw here at Union, you know, this other level of success that I saw from a distance was now something that I wanted to work really hard for. So at my time at Union, you know, I worked really hard, studied, got a good GPA, did a lot of extracurriculars, built up that resume, you know, beefed it up thinking like, as long as I have that solid resume, I'm going to get that dream job and I'm going to make a lot of money and I'm going to be successful. And, you know, back in high school, my definition of success was strictly, you know, how much money did you make? It was definitely compounded by, you know, the #1 song at the time, and I'm going to sound like a real white girl right now when I say this. It's All About the Benjamins, Baby by Puff Daddy. You guys probably have no idea what that song is. And I'm going to translate that for you because I don't think anybody carries cash anymore, but Benjamins means $100 bill. So at the time, I think it does. I don't carry cash anymore either. But you know, essentially, I thought it was all about how much money you made. That was success, and it's supported by the dictionary definition, which says the attainment of wealth. So, of course, success means making a lot of money. So I graduate from Union, and I have a job lined up before graduation. Awesome. It's out in LA, big, flashy city. It was everything that I thought that I wanted in life. And I'm thinking, yeah, this job, it's going to get me my sob. This is awesome. You know, I've made it. Not to mention, I was voted like most likely to succeed in high school. So I was like, of course, this is my path. Then I got the salary offer, and I'm like, what is this? This is not at all what I expected. And I realized very quickly that taking this job that I thought was amazing wasn't even going to allow me to pay rent, let alone buy a car. More than that, it wasn't going to allow me to fly back home to Syracuse to see my family, see my sisters, see my grandparents, see my parents, be home for holidays and birthdays. So reluctantly, I declined that job. And kind of like in a moment of panic and not having any money to pay my student loans, I took a job here in Schenectady to live with my college roommate. And if you had asked me when I was at Union or even growing up in high school if I would ever be a permanent resident of Schenectady County, I would have told you were out of your mind. But here I am, 15 years later, a permanent resident of Schenectady County. And my first job is where I met my husband. And now, you know, we have 2 great children. And to be honest with you, I love my life. You know, I'll go right to that point. But it was at my first job here in Schenectady that I, you know, got my first glimpse of all of this work that you put in high school and college to get your first job. And it's all of that work that you put in, you know, building up your resume, and you never actually stop to think about, what am I actually working towards? You know, I had an engineering degree, I did well, but then I show up at my job the first day, and I'm like, I don't even know what I'm supposed to do with all this. You know, what does an engineer really do? I don't think I even knew after graduation. And it was my first glimpse of, you know, what clients are like, what types of projects are out there, you know, what the real world was like. And I gotta tell you, it was a kind of a slap in the face. But I evolved. I was open-minded. I worked really hard. I loved my job, had a lot of great experiences, worked with a lot of really wonderful people. But I also saw, on the flip side, there was a lot of decisions that are made in industry based upon greed and benefiting one's own bottom line. And I realized quite quickly that that was appalling to me. You know, I had grown up in this small community that even though at the time I thought I was better than that, I realized, but the morals and the ethics from that community were much greater than I had ever really appreciated. And at Union, also, the interesting part about my experience with the Union is not only did I witness extreme wealth in terms of, you know, like the backgrounds of students here, but I also witnessed extreme poverty. I was lucky enough to travel to Brazil and Japan on terms abroad while I was here, and it was in Brazil that I realized that there was poverty in the world like I had never envisioned. You know, you hear about it in the news, you see it in newspapers, but it's not real until you see it in front of you. And that was also a defining moment for me of, well, why am I worried about Gucci shoes and a Saab convertible when these people don't even have clean drinking water? In Brazil, there's so much greed and just lack of regulation that having clean drinking water in one of the world's biggest cities is scarce and hard to find. And that was appalling to me at the time, and you know, it has become more relevant to me as I've become an adult and become a parent myself. So, you know, basically, being a civil engineer here in Schenectady, I was able to stay involved with the EDGE program. And a little bit more about EDGE. We're basically a summer camp for girls from across the country who come to Union to learn about what an engineering degree has to offer them and also get a college experience here at Union. And the reason we focus on girls specifically is because even in the workforce, girls make up about 47% of the workforce, which is great, or women technically, but they haven't always. In the 1950s, only about 30% of the workforce was women, but we've made great strides. Now women constitute almost half the workforce, but they don't gravitate towards STEM and engineering fields. In engineering specifically, only about 11% of engineers are women, which we found to be a problem and something we wanted to focus on at EDGE. So what we did was we tried to determine what would make girls interested in engineering, because we realized that girls tend to gravitate towards careers that have really more of an intuitive humanitarian impact, such as nursing, psychology, teaching. And we saw this, and this is still true today, and this was the same thing about 15 years ago when EDGE started. So we took this knowledge and said, well, let's show young girls who are in high school and planning their career path what an engineering degree has to offer them by showing them their direct humanitarian impact with that degree. So again, that's kind of became the theme of our program, which we call Tools and Toys for Children with Disabilities. And this is also a very defining moment in my life and kind of what's helped shape my career decisions, because it reminds me that even though I have an engineering degree and I do something every day, I go to work, I make a product, but that product needs to benefit other people. I have a bigger purpose than just going to work every day and making the Benjamins. So what we do at EDGE and what makes us very unique is that we have our girls meet children at a local school for children with disabilities where they see face-to-face that particular child, learn about their disability, learn about what makes them happy, what makes them sad, and what can make them happier. And our girls who are 16, 17 years old will then come back here with, in their class and take the skills that they've learned, their engineering skills, and try to hypothesize a solution that would make that particular child's life better. And in doing so, they're thinking a little bit outside of just like the technical box. They're thinking about, well, what really will benefit that child? What will make them really happy in the end? And so it's amazing projects for those students because they're not only learning engineering skills and learning about the engineering design process, and in engineer speak, they're defining the problem for the client, in this case the child. They're establishing relationships and they're learning that problem-solving skill. But they're also making that personal connection, which we find very valuable in reminding them of the humanitarian benefits that they have as engineers. So this is just a quick picture of some of our students in demonstrating their projects on the final day of our program, where our students are able to go back to the school and present their final project directly to their child and actually see firsthand the reaction of that child. And again, in engineer terms, the client. It's very impactful, and it has a long-lasting impression of our girls at EDGE, and we find that most of them do continue on into the STEM and engineering fields, which we're very thrilled about. But more so than that, it's helped me along the way too. It's reminded me again of my direct impact on the clients that I have in the projects that I do and how they really do benefit society. So even though I could talk about the benefits of our program here at EDGE and my role as an engineer, it really does apply to all different types of careers. And I think we can summarize careers into 6 different categories. You have thinkers who are engineers, doctors, scientists who are solving difficult problems, creating solutions like bridges and roads, finding cures for illnesses, and fixing bones if we had an accident. You've got your doers, like your contractors, your carpenters, your mechanics, who are taking the ideas of the thinkers and putting them into action and building those products. You've got helpers like teachers and nurses. You've got persuaders like lawyers who are tasked with protecting human rights for all of humanity. You've got organizers like secretaries and planners who really help support the thinkers and the doers. And you've got creators like artists and actors who make our life more entertaining and more enjoyable. So what I'd like to remind you, because you're not an audience of engineers. You're going to be lawyers and doctors and politicians, potentially, and many other things, scientists. It really doesn't matter what role you have in life, what career path you take. I think the biggest takeaway and what I've learned through not only my experience with EDGE, which unwittingly ended up helping me probably as much as it did the girls that come here every year, my experiences on my terms abroad, where I got to see people of different backgrounds and different economic conditions, and also becoming a mother, that's obviously put a different perspective on my life and helped me make better career decisions to make sure that I'm doing the right thing in my product. But what I want to remind everybody here is that whether you're a thinker, a doer, a creator, a helper, a persuader, or an organizer, is that you can use your skill set to benefit all of humanity and do something innovative, create an innovative solution that will help people out and make life either easier, more entertaining, and safer. And so with that, again, I encourage you to go on and take out in the world and do those things. And I guarantee you, if you do that, you will find success. And when I say success, I mean in terms of career fulfillment. But you'll also make some Benjamins along the way. And just final disclaimer, I never did get my Saab convertible. They don't make them anymore. They haven't made them in years, and they're definitely not a practical family car, but that's beside the point. So thank you very much.